The One Year Bible, the Living Bible Paraphrased, March the 11th. The Lord also said to Moses at this time, Instruct the people of Israel that when they arrive in the land that I am going to give them, they must present to the Lord a sample of each year's new crops by making a loaf, using coarse flour from the first grain that is cut each year. This loaf must be waved back and forth before the altar in a gesture of offering to the Lord. It is an annual offering from your threshing floor and must be observed from generation to generation. If by mistake you or future generations fail to carry out all of these regulations that the Lord has given you over the years through Moses, then when the people realize their error, they must offer one young bull for a burnt offering. It will be a pleasant odor before the Lord, and must be offered along with the usual grain offering and drink offering, and one male goat for a sin offering. And the priest shall make atonement for all the people of Israel, and they shall be forgiven. For it was an error, and they have corrected it with their sacrifice made by fire before the Lord, and by their sin offering. All the people shall be forgiven, including the foreigners living among them, for the entire population is involved in such error and forgiveness. If the error is made by a single individual, then he shall sacrifice a 1-year-old female goat for a sin offering, and the priest shall make atonement for him before the Lord, and he shall be forgiven. This same law applies to individual foreigners who are living among you. But anyone who deliberately makes the mistake, whether he is a native Israeli or a foreigner, is blaspheming Jehovah, and shall be cut off from among his people. For he has despised the commandment of the Lord, and deliberately failed to obey his law. He must be executed and die in his sin. One day, while the people of Israel were in the wilderness, one of them was caught gathering wood on the Sabbath day. He was arrested and taken before Moses and Aaron, the other judges. They jailed him until they could find out the Lord's mind concerning him. Then the Lord said to Moses, The man must die. All the people shall stone him to death outside the camp. So they took him outside the camp and killed him as the Lord had commanded. The Lord said to Moses, Tell the people of Israel to make tassels for the hems of their clothes. This is a permanent regulation from generation to generation, and to attach the tassels to their clothes with the blue cord. The purpose of this regulation is to remind you, whenever you notice the tassels, of the commandments of the Lord, and that you are to obey his laws instead of following your own desires and going your own ways, as you used to do and serving other gods. It will remind you to be holy to your God, for I am Jehovah your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt. Yes, I am the Lord your God. One day Korah, son of Izhar, grandson of Kohath, a descendant of Levi, conspired with Dathan and Abiram, the sons of Eliab, and On, the son of Pelath, all three from the tribe of Reuben, to incite a rebellion against Moses. 250 popular leaders, all members of the assembly, were involved. They went to Moses and Aaron and said, We have had enough of your presumption. You are no better than anyone else. Everyone in Israel has been chosen of the Lord, and he is with all of us. What right do you have to put yourselves forward, claiming that we must obey you, and acting as though you were greater than anyone else among all these people of Israel? That is what and acting as though you were greater than anyone else among all these people of the Lord. When Moses heard what they were saying, he fell face downward to the ground. Then he said to Korah and to those who were with him, In the morning the Lord will show you who are his, and who is holy, and whom he hath chosen as his priest. Do this. You, Korah, and all those with you, take censers tomorrow and light them, and put incense upon them before the Lord, and we will find out whom the Lord has chosen. You are the presumptuous ones, you sons of Levi." Then Moses spoke again to Korah. "Does it seem a small thing to you that the God of Israel has chosen you from among all the people of Israel to be near to himself as you work in the tabernacle of Jehovah, and to stand before the people to minister to them? Is it nothing to you that he has given this task to only you Levites, and now you are demanding the priesthood also? That is what you are really after. That is why you are revolting against Jehovah. And what has Aaron done that you are dissatisfied with him?" Then Moses summoned Dathan and Abiram, the sons of Eliab, but they refused to come. "Is it a small thing," they mimicked, "that you brought us out of lovely Egypt to kill us here in this terrible wilderness, and that now you want to make yourself our king? What's more, you haven't brought us into the wonderful country you promised, nor given us fields and vineyards. Whom are you trying to fool? We refuse to come." Then Moses was very angry and said to the Lord, "Do not accept their sacrifices. I have never stolen so much as a donkey from them, and have not hurt one of them." And Moses said to Korah, "Come here tomorrow before the Lord with all your friends. Aaron will be here too. Be sure to bring your censers with incense on them, a censer for each man, 250 in all, and Aaron will also be here with us." So they did. They came with their censers and lit them and placed the incense on them, and stood at the entrance of the tabernacle with Moses and Aaron. Meanwhile Korah had stirred up the entire nation against Moses and Aaron. They all assembled to watch. Then the glory of Jehovah appeared to all the people, and Jehovah said to Moses and Aaron, "Get away from these people so that I may instantly destroy them." But Moses and Aaron fell face downward to the ground before the Lord. "O God, the God of all mankind," they pleaded, "must you be angry with all the people when one man sins?" And the Lord said to Moses, "Then tell the people to get away from the tents of Korah, Dathan, and Abiram." So Moses rushed over to the tents of Dathan and Abiram, followed closely by the 250 Israeli leaders. "Quick," he told the people, "get away from the tents of these wicked men, and don't touch anything that belongs to them, lest you be included in their sins and be destroyed with them." So all the people stood back from the tents of Korah, Dathan, and Abiram, and Dathan and Abiram came out and stood at the entrance of their tents with their wives and sons and little ones. And Moses said, "By this you shall know that Jehovah has sent me to do all these things that I have done, for I have not done them on my own. If these men die a natural death, or from some ordinary accident or disease, then Jehovah has not sent me. But if the Lord does a miracle, and the ground opens up and swallows them and everything that belongs to them, and they go down alive into Sheol, then you will know that these men have despised the Lord." He had hardly finished speaking the words when the ground suddenly split open beneath them, and a great fissure swallowed them up, along with their tents and families, and the friends who were standing with them, and everything they owned. So they went down alive into Sheol, and the earth closed upon them, and they perished. All of the people of Israel fled at their screams, fearing that the earth would swallow them too. Then the fire came from Jehovah and burned up the 250 men who were offering incense. The Lord said to Moses, "Tell Eleazar the son of Aaron the priest to pull those censers from the fire, for they are holy, dedicated to the Lord. He must also scatter the burning incense from the censers of these men who have sinned at the cost of their lives. He shall then beat the metal into a sheet as a covering for the altar. For these censers are holy because they were used before the Lord. The altar she shall be a reminder to the people of Israel. So Eleazar the priest took the 250 bronze censers and beat them out into a sheet of metal to cover the altar, to be a reminder to the people of Israel that no unauthorized person, no one who is not a descendant of Aaron, may come before the Lord to burn incense, lest the same thing happen to him as happened to Korah and his associates. Thus the Lord's directions to Moses were carried out. The Gospel of Mark, chapter 15, verses 1 through 47. Early in the morning, the chief priests, elders, and teachers of religion, the entire Supreme Court, met to discuss their next steps. Their decision was to send Jesus under armed guard to Pilate, the Roman governor. Pilate asked him, "Are you the king of the Jews?" Jesus replied, "It is as you say." Then the chief priest accused him of many crimes, and Pilate asked him, "Why don't you say something? What about all these charges against you?" But Jesus said no more, much to Pilate's amazement. Now it was Pilate's custom to release one Jewish prisoner each year at Passover time, any prisoner the people requested. One of the prisoners at that time was Barabbas, convicted along with others for murdering during an insurrection. Now a mob began to crowd in toward Pilate, asking him to release a prisoner as usual. "How about giving you the king of the Jews?" Pilate asked. "Is he the one you want released?" For he realized by now that this was a frame-up backed by the chief priest, because they envied Jesus' popularity. But at this point the chief priest whipped up the mob to demand the release of Barabbas instead of Jesus. "But if I release Barabbas," Pilate asked them, "what shall I do with this man you call your king?" They shouted back, "Crucify him!" But why, Pilate demanded. "What has he done wrong?" They only roared the louder, "Crucify him!" Then Pilate, afraid of a riot and anxious to please the people, released Barabbas to them, and he ordered Jesus flogged with a leaded whip and handed him over to be crucified. Then the Roman soldiers took him into the barracks of the palace, called out the entire palace guard, dressed him in a purple robe, and made a crown of long sharp thorns and put it on his head. Then they saluted, yelling, "Yea, King of the Jews!" And they beat him on the head with a cane and spat on him, went down on their knees to worship him. When they finally tired of their sport, they took off the purple robe, put his own clothes on him again, and led him away to be crucified. Simon of Cyrene, who was coming in from the country just then, was pressed into service to carry Jesus' cross. Simon is the father of Alexander and Rufus. They brought Jesus to a place called Golgotha. Golgotha means skull. Wine drugged with bitter herbs was offered to him there, but he refused it. And then they crucified him and threw dice for his clothes. It was about 9 o'clock in the morning when the crucifixion took place. A signboard was fastened to the cross above his head, announcing his crime. It read, "The King of the Jews." 2 robbers were also crucified that morning, their crosses on either side of his, and so the scripture was fulfilled that said, "He was counted among evil men." The people jeered at him as they walked by and wagged their heads in mockery. "Ha, look at you now," they yelled at him. "Sure, you can destroy the temple and rebuild it in 3 days? If you're so wonderful, save yourself and come down from the cross." The chief priests and religious leaders were also standing around joking about Jesus. "He's quite clever at saving others," they said, "but he can't save himself." "Hey there, Messiah," they yelled at him. "King of Israel, come on down from the cross and we'll believe you." and even the 2 robbers dying with him cursed him. About noon, darkness fell across the entire land, lasting until 3 o'clock that afternoon. Then Jesus called out with a loud voice, "Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani? My God, why have you deserted me?" Some of the people standing there thought he was calling for the prophet Elijah. So one man ran and got a sponge and filled it with sour wine and held it up to him on a stick. "Let's see if Elijah will come and take him down," he said. Then Jesus uttered another loud cry and dismissed his spirit. And the curtain in the temple was split apart from top to bottom. When the Roman officer standing beside his cross saw how he dismissed his spirit, he exclaimed, "Truly, this was the Son of God." Some women were there watching from a distance: Mary Magdalene, Mary the mother of James the younger and of Joseph, Salome, and others. They and many other Galilean women who were his followers had ministered to him when he was up in Galilee, and had come with him to Jerusalem. This all happened the day before the Sabbath. Late that afternoon, Joseph from Arimathea, an honored member of the Jewish Supreme Court, personally was eagerly expecting the arrival of God's kingdom, gathered his courage, and went to Pilate and asked for Jesus' body. Pilate couldn't believe that Jesus was already dead, so he called for the Roman officer in charge and asked him. The officer confirmed the fact, and Pilate told Joseph he could have the body. Joseph bought a long sheet of linen cloth, and taking Jesus' body down from the cross, wound it in the cloth, and laid it in a rock-hewn tomb, and rolled a stone in front of the entrance. Mary Magdalene and Mary, the mother of Joseph, were watching as Jesus was laid away. Psalm 54, verses 1 through 7. Written by David at the time the men of Ziph tried to betray him to Saul. Come with great power, O God, and save me. Defend me with your might. O listen to my prayer, for violent men have risen against me. Ruthless men, who care nothing for God, are seeking my life. But God is my helper. He is a friend of mine. He will cause the evil deeds of my enemies to boomerang upon them. Do as you have promised and put an end to these wicked men, O God. Gladly I bring my sacrifices to you. I will praise your name, O Lord, for it is good. God has rescued me from all my trouble and triumphed over my enemies. Proverbs chapter 11, verses 5 and 6. Good people are directed by their honesty. The wicked shall fall beneath their load of sins. The good man's goodness delivers him. The evil man's treachery is his undoing.